Hola, buenos días.
Buenas tardes, buenas noches.
This is Barb.
This is Estella.
Welcome to Cafecito and Crime.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I was like, wait, what? What's next?
Welcome to Cafecito and Crime.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. First episode of the new year, so we don't want to take too much time. Let's just get started.
Yep.
So grab your cafecitos.
And let's get started. So for today's case, like
3 times.
sorry, for today's case. No, okay.
So we're kind of out of it because it's the middle of the night. To me, this is the middle of the night.
I was about to say it's 6 o'clock.
Yeah, but
6
anyway,
PM.
and we have no cafe. But I am doing one of my New Year's resolutions, which is to drink more water. Bam! I started on it already.
I feel like you do drink more water anyway.
I don't drink enough, I feel. So,
Okay.
But anyway.
Okay, so for today's case, it's about a child serial killer. So if you don't want to listen to this, like, we totally get it.
Yeah, I understand.
But
There's another, 34 episodes you can listen to?
Yes. It's about a child serial killer who kills other children.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, it's better than for a child serial killer to be serial killer. It's better for a child serial killer to be killing other children than to be killing other grown-ups? No, I don't think so.
I don't think that made sense.
Not at all. But anyway.
So for today's case, we're going to across the pond.
Oh.
To Newcastle, England.
England. Okay.
See? And the fun fact that it wasn't really like a fun fact. It's kind of mostly like a historical kind of fun fact.
But is it fun?
I think so.
So then it's a fun fact.
Okay, it's a what is it that we used to call it before?
Interesting fact.
Interesting fact.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever. It's that Newcastle Central Station was the first covered train station in the world.
Okay.
Have you ever been to a train station?
I've never been to a train station.
Okay.
A train station?
Station.
Wow. One of those days? Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was inaugurated in 1850 by Queen Victoria. Do you remember her? Do you remember Vicky?
I remember that girl, Vicky.
Okay, yeah, me too. Mm-hmm. She was queen.
She's cute or whatever.
Yeah. Before this, if it was raining or any other type of bad weather, passengers would have to wait out in the bad weather. Mm-hmm. Today, it is considered 1 out of 6 grade 1 rail stations in the UK, which grade 1 means that the site is of exceptional national, architectural, and historical importance.
That was a mouthful.
It was. And I know it's not the most exciting fun fact, but when it's something that it's the first in whatever it may be.
I mean, no,
that's
pero
pretty cool, right?
I mean, está bien. Algo leve. Tú sabes.
You know the train stations like, did you ever watch Gossip Girl? You know, the very famous one is the one in New York, the Grand Central.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Like that.
Yeah.
Like Harry Potter.
Yeah,
like
Harry
that.
Potter.
Yeah,
Ándale, Harry Potter. El Harry Potter. Sí, lo conozco al Harry.
Yeah, al Harry.
Al Harry Potter. Mm-hmm.
Mary Flora Bell was born on May 26, 1957 in Newcastle, England. Así, María Flora Campana.
No manche, la campana.
Sí.
Okay.
Which is actually my friend's birthday, Anna. Gemini. May 26th.
Gemini. Okay. I see you, Anna.
After she was born, a nurse tried to hand Mary to her mom, Betty. Betty said to the nurse, allegedly, "Get that thing away from me."
A thing?
Yeah.
Not the baby.
Now, Betty McCricket was a young mom. She was 16 when she had Mary, and it made it known that she didn't want her, from what she said to the nurse, I think. Y it's not really known for sure quién era el papá de Mary, pero Mary believed it for a really long time that it was Billy Bell, whom Betty married about a year after Mary was born. That's just very Mary, Betty, Billy Bell.
Es un chingo, güey. O
yeah,
sea,
like they
me confundí.
Like they go together, right? Mary, Betty, and Billy Bell.
That's too much. Campanas.
Las campanas. Betty tried to get rid of Mary many times.
What?
Sí. Una vez, she tried to give or sell Mary to a woman and her husband who hadn't been able to adopt.
Oh, so just be like, te la voy a vender. Ni que fuera un kilo de masa o qué chingada.
Y la hermana de Betty thought that she was acting like suspicious. Y followed Betty. And then vio que Betty le estaba dando la niña a esta señora, and she went and took her away. And
saved her, basically. Her aunt.
Honestly, honestly, I feel like Mary would have been better if that lady had taken her.
Probably.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It usually happens that way.
Yeah. When Betty's sister and husband offered to adopt Mary from Betty, ella les dijo que no. And by that point, or by that time, Mary was already beneficial to Betty porque she would get government funds for having,
Okay. Le daban como estampillas y todo eso.
Now, Betty, Billy, and Mary, I know it's kind of confusing for you, lived in Scotswood, which was like a slum in Newcastle at the time. So the area was like really poor, like really run down. Tenía como empty homes and empty buildings. So it was ridden with poverty and petty crimes. The police were called often to Scotswood for public intoxication and domestic violence.
So that was kind of a common occurrence there at the...
Sí.
Como en la
neighborhood,
ghetto,
sí,
la
colonia. Sí, sex work was also very common. Betty, Mary's mom, was a sex worker and who was known for sadomasochism.
Oh, shit.
And Billy was a petty criminal who was hardly ever home because he was siempre estaba en la cárcel el güey.
So then he would let his wife be a sex worker? Like that? He was cool with that?
Yeah, well, they needed money.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, he would like steal and stuff, pero siempre lo agarraban y lo metían a la cárcel.
Wow.
So that was...
No, pues,
that was where...
More power to you, whatever you want.
So Mary's home life was awful. Betty was an alcoholic and was mentally unstable. Just very erratic, very all over the place. And Mary was a chronic bedwetter, la niña. So Betty would, when she would wet the bed, Betty le agarraba a Mary por su pelo, would grab her by her hair and then push her face into the area where she peed. This is going to be really bad, but it is also alleged that Betty introduced Mary to sex work at 4 years old.
At 4?
At 4.
Cuatro. What the fuck?
She would also leave Mary alone for weeks at a time while she was away meeting clients, like out of town and shit. Y la niña estaba sola. Y el papá en la pinche cárcel and shit.
So solita.
Solita.
Wow.
Solita.
Okay.
It is also suggested that Betty suffered from Munchausen syndrome by proxy.
Yeah, que la enfermaba.
Sí.
Make her sick.
Yeah, which is a mental illness or a form of child abuse where the caretaker of a child either makes up fake symptoms or causes real symptoms to make a child sick or make them look sick for attention. Como I think the most famous case that we know of is the Gypsy Rose, right?
Yeah, Gypsy Rose.
Yeah. So that is believed because it was reported that on a couple of occasions, Betty asked for help because Mary had gotten into her bottle of pills. Yeah, in one of those occasions, when Mary was around 2 years old, she was found eating candies and Valium by su tía, la hermana de...
Both candies and Valium at the same time.
Yes. Y when la tía brought it up to Betty, she just like shrugged it off. Y dijo, oh, de seguro she just grabbed them from my purse.
What the fuck?
On another occasion, Mary almost died because she had ingested too many iron pills. So it is also reported that Mary also fell from a window. Like she was really clumsy. Did she fall? Or was she pushed?
I was about to say like that. I mean, I know some kids are clumsy, but from a whole ass window, fuck, that's like a lot.
So maybe it was just Betty trying to get rid of Mary, like she
la quería matar.
Like she wanted to get rid of her or wanted her for attention, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, quién sabe.
It's because it just sounds like it's a lot. Like she has so much like. No quiere a la niña.
Well, también no está bien
she's
de la
not mentally stable.
She's an alcoholic.
She has just so many things. La deja sola. She's a prostitute. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Or not a sex worker.
Yes. Now, Mary didn't have friends because she had major behavioral problems. As expected, I guess, from having that type of life.
Yeah.
But she did have one friend. But Mary witnessed her friend get run over by a bus and watched her die when she was 5.
Yeah. That's bad. And very pobrecita.
Yeah. So her life was just super...
She only had one friend and her one friend got ran over by the bus.
And she saw it. And saw her die. So her life was just really sad and unfathomable. Like, you can even imagine going through all of that at our
5.
age now. But, like, from when you're born to 5, you know, she had gone through all of that. So after that one friend passed away, she did make another friend. Norma Bell. There's no relation, pero eran neighbors.
And their last name was both Bell?
Uh-huh.
That's weird. Is that like a common last name there?
I'm not sure, pero...
Let's take a quick break.
Persons of Interest is back, and it's bigger than ever. That scream will echo in my head for many years.
Taser, taser, taser! He's gonna shoot!
Oi! Shot fired! Shots fired, shots fired.
Stay out, you got a gun on you!
He had the perfect aim.
I am absolutely stressed at that point. I have no idea where my officers are.
Persons of Interest available everywhere you get your podcasts.
I guess. I don't know. Say.
Okay.
Y,
Más campanas.
Más campanas, las dos. Norma was 2 years older, but later after the trial and they get psychologically evaluated, it does come out that even though Norma was 2 years older, she did have a learning disability of some sort. So she was described as simple-minded and intellectually weak. So even though she was older by 2 years,
She was probably at
a little bit younger.
Intellectual
younger
level.
than Mary.
Yeah, than Mary.
So Mary was the leader of the two. In school, Mary was described as bright, but showed no empathy towards others. Y in the school's playground is cuando aquella she would go hard on the other kids. So los chingaba.
Did you beat the shit out of them?
Yeah, that's one way of putting it.
Oh, shit.
Mary would be fine one moment, and then the next she just like off the rails when somebody said something que a ella no le parecía.
Sounds like somebody I know.
One time she stubbed out a cigarette on a cheek of a young girl.
What?
Sí. Y the teacher noticed y le fue a preguntar a la niña qué fue eso. And she said that it was Mary that had done it. Y the teacher confronted Mary about it and she didn't deny it. She just said that she was sorry. And then that was it.
Wow.
So Mary liked to strangle kids.
Oh, no, pues that was her choice of...
And there were plenty of reports of her doing it to kids. Like teachers at school knew and stuff. In one instance, she was strangling a little girl on the school's playground.
How is this like...
And the little girl's face turned red, and her lips started turning a different color. Y nada más que vino a bigger kid and took Mary off of that little girl.
So nada más por sus nalgas, she would strangle them. There was no reason. She was just like, oh, I feel like strangling you today. And she would fucking choke them.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. No tenían razón, no se peleaban
Yeah,
nada.
that's what I'm saying. No, like somebody would say she would take it the wrong way and she'd fucking strangle kids.
That's a little much.
In another time, again in the school playground, a young girl named Pauline was Mary's target of the attack. Now I'm not sure what happened, pero Norma was holding down Pauline por las manos on the floor,
no se moviera.
And Mary was strangling her.
Oh my God! Can you
imagine?
Luego
Mary le dejó. She was strangling her with both hands, pero luego took off one hand. And then con la otra mano, grabbed sand and was throwing it down the girl's mouth.
Stop it.
And when she was like kind of letting it go and that wasn't fast enough for her, she started stuffing it down the girl's throat.
What? Oh my God. And where
with
these
her fingers.
Teachers?
So Norma, I guess, cuando todo esto got freaked out, y la dejó ir a la niña when she saw that she was kind of like choking and stuff. Y cuando Norma la dejó ir, the girl was able to fight Mary. And se soltó. And she ran home, la niña. I know you were just about to say, where are these teachers? At school, nothing was ever done about Mary's behavior, sadly. But Pauline's mom went to the police. And nothing really came of it. I believe in this case it was because Pauline only told them that she had tried to strangle her, but nunca les dijo that she had tried to fucking stick sand down her throat or stuff it in her mouth. Pauline says que no dijo todo because she was scared que al rato, if she did,
happen again.
Mary was going to go after her again.
Yeah, okay.
And I guess the police took it as, the neighborhood that they come from, everybody knew how the type of life that Mary had. I mean, it was coming in that neighborhood. Mary wasn't the only one that was, being abused and all that stuff, but they're like, oh, they're just kids from Scottswood, and apparently Mary lived in like the worst part of Scottswood, even in that area. So así quedaron las cosas. So the kids were definitely scared of her, so they steered clear of her. And it was just kind of the same for the kids in the neighborhood, not just in school. Well, pretty much they all went to the same school from that area. So on May 11th of 1968, Mary was 10. So she's 10.
10. Okay.
Yeah.
Fast forward to 10.
And Norma is 12.
Yeah.
They're 2 years apart. So they took a little 3-year-old boy from the neighborhood and to buy candy. and he was found sometime later dazed and bleeding. Well, apparently the boy had fallen from like like bunkers, like during like the world wars that were built. They're not, it's not a super tall building. It's kind of just like mostly underground, but it has like a little arch type.
Yeah.
So el niño se cayó de ahí. And the police...
De arriba?
Sí, de arriba. Porque you know how I mentioned that the Scottwood was full of like empty buildings and empty homes? So los niños se metían adentro a jugar and stuff. They would climb los techos y break windows.
That makes sense.
So el niño se cayó del bunker type building. And the police and the ambulance were called, and again, nothing came of it. And nothing happened to Mary and Norma because everybody just believed that it had been an accident. Now, Martin Brown was a 4-year-old boy from Scottwood, from the same neighborhood. And he was described by his mom June, as tall for his age and just full of energy. He had the curliest blonde hair and blue eyes and the longest eyelashes, dice su mom. Y que era bien travieso, que era bien cabrón, but he was super sweet. Well, he's fucking 4, you know?
He's 4. That's what they're supposed to do.
So on May 25th, so this is a day before Mary turns 11.
Okay.
So on May 25th of 1968, Martin Brown was playing outside in the neighborhood with his little friends or whatever. So in Scottswood, kids would play outside as young as 2, 3, and unsupervised for hours. And nobody would bat an eyelash. That's just kind of the way that it was. And the parents never worried because al rato siempre llegaban a la casa.
Yeah.
Around 3 to 4 p.m., 2 young boys were playing in an abandoned house. Y when they went up to the second floor, encontraron the body of 4-year-old Martin Brown. The boys panicked and they ran downstairs and got the attention of some men that were working nearby. So a las 5, a neighbor called June and told her that Martin had had an accident and that he was at one of the abandoned houses type buildings. So June ran to where he was, and when she got there was a crowd of people outside, and a man had Martin in his hands.
Oh.
He said June, because there's an interview where she says that he looked gray and that when she touched him, estaba bien frío, so she took off her cardigan and wrapped it around him. So ambulances arrived and they took him to the hospital. They tried to resuscitate him, but he was pronounced dead on arrival. Wow. And it was since it was a suspicious death, the police investigated it. Remember that? Now, when Martin was found, he was found with a bit of dried blood and saliva around his mouth. But when a pathologist examined his body, there were no signs of a struggle, nothing.
Well, he's 4. I mean, he didn't really, you know what I mean? A 4-year-old, you're like, oh, you're playing with me. I don't know.
So people are still popping fireworks. Okay.
So what I was saying, it's if you're a 4-year-old and you said there's no sign of struggle, I mean, obviously he's basically a baby. He just didn't know probably what was going on, right?
Right. There were a couple of theories on what happened to Martin about what caused his death. And one of them was that he took some pills that were found in that house. Mm-hmm. Porque there had been a bottle of pills that were found by the previous owner de esa casa y ahí estaban tiradas, and that bottle was found near his body cuando lo encontraron. But that wasn't the cause after the pathologist. He hadn't ingested anything or anything like that. And another theory was that he died of being scared porque getting on those stairs. That was just a theory that went around at the time.
Okay.
June, su mom, dice que Martin was scared of stairs porque una vez había caído off a flight of stairs. So he was just super petrified of being on stairs, and that somehow that really caused him to
so they
be
think
scared.
That he got a heart attack from the...
Probably.
Okay.
It was just a theory. Now the Sun, which is a newspaper, wrote an article about it because, it was being investigated by the police. Pero it was super fucked up. I know they come from a really poor neighborhood, and I get that. Pero the headline was Rat Alley Boy.
Stop.
Yeah. It says Rat Alley Boy may have died of fright. And I was like...
Why would they say that?
I know. And even when June was giving the interview, she's like, to read that your son is now dead and to see that they write that about him.
That he's a rat.
Rat Alley Boy. I was like, oh my God. So that was, what was going around at the time.
So sad.
Now, remember, he was found on May 25th.
Yeah.
2 days later, after his death, on May 27th, the police were called to a nursery. So it's like a daycare that was in the Scottwoods area. And they reported a break-in. Inside, the police found that the place had been completely trashed, and they also found 4 pieces of paper. Okay? One said, quote, "I murder so I may come back."
Okay.
Another piece of paper.
Piece of paper. Piece of paper. Okay.
Another piece of
paper. I thought you were trying to say pizza. I'm like, okay, you hungry?
I want some.
Yeah.
Another piece of paper said, quote, we did murder Mountain Brown. Fuck you.
Don't fuck you. He said, fuck you. I'm like, no, fuck you.
It said, we did murder Martin Brown. Fuck off, you bastard. The handwriting was really bad, and there was like a lot of grammatical errors and a lot of misspellings. That's what I said,
like they're not very educated. How about stay in school, little girl?
The handwriting was like if a little kid had written, like kids had written it. There were other 2 pieces of paper, and they're, like I said, the handwriting was trash, and so they were really hard to read. But in one of them, you can make out that it says, "We murder, watch out," and then it says like the F slur. So the notes were taken kind of like as a bad joke.
Yeah.
Because the police by that point had concluded that, Martin Brown's death had been considered an accident, which was because of the area that he lived in, de que a lo mejor se había pegado o algo así le había pasado. So that was concluded. These notes were just taken as like somebody who's trying to be an asshole, like a bad joke, kids just being dicks.
That is just not right, though.
No,
like,
of course not.
How is that possible? That you can just say, oh, it's just, they're just fucking
it's
around.
The 1960s,
wow.
And, at the time, poor area.
I mean, yeah, but not because you're poor doesn't mean it's okay for you to get killed or die.
No, I know, but if your murder is considered an accident.
Yeah, true. Okay. Mm-hmm.
So the nursery had multiple break-ins up to that point, and after that one, they got a security system installed and stuff. Now, in the days leading up to Martin's...
But what do you take out of a nursery? Like, ¿qué te llevas?
No se robaron nada. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that. It was they just trashed it.
No tenía nada más que hacer.
Pues, exactamente.
Okay.
In the days leading up to Martin's burial, Mary and Norma started to act really weird towards June. Mary and Norma would go to June's house and, like, smiling, and like she says, like with a creepy smile, would ask her questions about Martin and if she was really sad que se había muerto el niño y que if she missed him.
Ay, pero ¿por qué niñas tan pendejas?
And another time they went up to her door and they knocked and they asked if they could see Martin. And June said that she thought to herself that they just didn't grasp what had really happened to Martin, since they were kids. So she was like, no, you can't see him, he's dead. Y que Mary, still with a smile on her face, dijo, oh, I know he's dead. I wanted to see him in his coffin.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That was fucking creepy as fuck.
June said that she just slammed the door in her face, and she said that she just broke down crying. Like, I think she had to be sedated. Her husband had to call like the doctor and stuff. So understandable que alguien te diga eso. Yeah, I know your child is dead, but I want to see him in his coffin.
That just gave me the chills, like straight up. That's so crazy.
So Martin was laid to rest, but he had no gravestone because his family was really poor. So they couldn't afford one, yeah. So in the end, like I just mentioned, his death was regarded an unfortunate accident as a result of the environment in which he lived. Since, a lot of buildings in the area were getting demolished. So había have buildings, it was dangerous. So like I said, they thought that probably attributed to whatever happened to Martin. And there was marches and everything. People were protesting, and leading those protests.
Wow.
Those protests was fucking holding up signs and everything was Mary and Norma at the center of it.
At 11.
11 and 13.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Brian Howie was a fair, very super blonde 3-year-old from Scott Woods too. And on July 31st, he was outside playing. So it had been 2 months had passed. Like many other children, like I mentioned, unsupervised, playing outside. At some point, he and other children went to watch the demolition of one of the buildings. And after they did that, he was still out on the streets playing with the dog. So,
at 3 years old, do you comprehend what you're doing? Like, you're like, hey, let's go see what 7 or 8, you're like, hey, let's go do this. And everybody runs. But like at 3, like, do you actually like, I'm trying to think of my kids at 3 years old, and my daughter at 3 years old was not going to go, outside.
But and I always think like, I feel like we can't really place ourselves in that situation because we didn't grow up into it. I feel like if you grow up into that, but like,
but at 3 years old, like, you see what I'm saying? I'm just trying to like kind of piece it together to where I'm like, okay, at 3 years old, like, do they actually know what's going on? Like, to be like, oh, I'm going to go and watch the building get blown
it's
up,
one thing if you're going to go play with the dog outside in the area.
I get that.
But
you
like,
go play with the dog, you have your toy, todo eso, pero actually like go somewhere. Like, I don't know. I just don't understand. And I get, that everybody grew up different.
Maybe you just follow the crowd. Like, you just see all the little kids.
Todos, maybe. We all go, I get that. Or se lo llevan or something like that. Yeah, I get that. But it's just, I don't know. I just I'm having a hard time imagining that.
Yeah. So they watched the demolition, and then after that, he was still playing outside with the dog and everything like that. So later that evening, Brian's family started to get worried porque no llegó a la casa a comer la cena. And his sister Pat la mandaron a que lo fuera a buscar. And as Pat was doing that, she ran into Mary. And Pat told Mary, that she couldn't find Brian. So Mary started helping her to look for him. And they asked around Scotswood, but no one had seen him since he had been outside playing with the dog. They looked all over the place, inside junked cars, abandoned houses and buildings, empty fields, and nothing. Now the Howie family called the police after they couldn't find him. It was around 11 p.m., like a little bit after 11, when Brian's body was found. And he was found in an area called the Tin Lizzie, which was like an industrial dumping ground. It had like cement blocks and like metal and scraps and stuff like that. And there was like bushes. Now this is bad. This is sad. So if you just want to skip maybe like the next minute or so, because it's going to say how they found him. Harvey Burroughs, who was, I think, head of the investigation at the time, said that Brian was found like semi-spread eagle, half naked. He in like his little thighs and calves had something resembling like puncture wounds, and his penis had been like partially mutilated.
Oh wow.
Pieces of his hair were found around, and they had been cut. And they also found a pair of broken scissors nearby. Now, when Brian's body was taken for an autopsy, the pathologist determined that his cause of death was strangulation, and that he had been deceased up to 7.5 hours by the time he was found. Tenía marks on his nostrils that indicated someone had pinched them closed.
Estela, you're doing that, and you sound
like
yeah, don't palo con punta. No, don't do that. You're like, somebody had pinched his nose. no, you can't say that.
It's not funny.
Yeah, no, but you're like, pinched his nose. I'm like, oh my god, can she hear herself?
So, like I said, indicated that someone had pinched his nose closed, and there were bruises and scratches on his neck. Now the marks on...
it was, para acabar pronto, it was brutal.
Yeah.
What they did to this poor baby was brutal.
3-year-old.
3-year-old, yeah.
The marks on his legs and thighs were made after his death. And there were new marks on his chest that weren't noticeable before, but after, like, I think they said after the blood had cooled that he had passed away, le empezaron a salir these marks on his stomach.
That happens, yeah.
And it looked like somebody had tried to carve an M onto his stomach.
Wow.
Yes. So the lack of force in his injuries concluded that this was done by a child, since they were mostly all just superficial wounds and that just punctured the skin. So there wasn't any force behind. Because
children are not strong. I mean, there's some children that are stronger than others, but I'm just saying that's not, I don't know. I can't imagine.
And they're saying that there was kind of like somebody who was curious, who was just doing to see a ver qué pasaba.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the police announced that they were searching for a child murderer.
Wow.
And over 100 detectives were assigned to the case from all over the county. And by August 2nd, remember, this happened on July 31st. By August 2nd, 1,000 homes had been visited and 1,200 children had been questioned.
Shit.
Yeah. So they were all
fast. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So los niños that were questioned were from as young as little Brian 3 to teenagers, So 2 out of those 1,200 children that were talked to were Mary and Norma. Bell, campana.
Campana.
They were interviewed on August 1st, and Norma was described by police. Es que las pinches güeyes no saben ni disimular, güey.
Porque están chiquillas,
Yeah,
güey. I mean, they're little girls.
Yeah.
También pendejas. That's what it is.
Norma was described by police as acting excited, smiling, and treating the situation as a joke.
She was not smiling, was she?
She was smiling.
Smiling? Okay. Mm-hmm.
Mary was very evasive. She's very like, así como callada. She was just listening and calculated, like in her answers. In their initial statement, they said that they hadn't played with Brian on July 31st. But after speaking with others in the neighborhood, you know, the police spoke to other people in the neighborhood and hearing what kind of reputation Mary and Norma had, they knew they had to keep going back to Mary and Norma. In another instance where Mary was interviewed, she suddenly remembered some new information that she hadn't the first time.
Okay.
Dijo that she saw an 8-year-old boy hitting Brian and pushing him around in la calle. Y le dijo a la policía that the boy was holding a silver-colored pair of scissors that were broken or bent. And Mary had just placed herself at the crime scene.
Yeah, and knew about the scissors.
Because nobody else knew about the scissors.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So the police had kept that to themselves. So only the murderer and the police would have known about the scissors. But she wasn't yet arrested or anything like that. But she was on their radar. Now, this 8-year-old boy that she said that was hitting little Brian, like I think they did track him down, but it was a lie, obviously, because he had been at the airport with his family at the time.
So she actually described someone.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. And then they were like, no, this can't be it. Okay.
He had like a solid alibi. So on August 4th, Norma was interviewed again. And I believe by this point, it was like the third time that she had was being interviewed. And police asked her again. And, she, what was she doing at the time that Brian would have been murdered, which was from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. And she had previously told them that, she was playing with her siblings, but police told Norma that no, that kids in the neighborhood did see her play with Brian that day.
So the other interviewees did say that Norma andaba jugando con el niño.
Yeah, Norma and Mary.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So Norma was like, oh, fuck. They knew I was fucking playing with Brian. Mm-hmm. So at that point, Norma was shitting bricks and told police Mary told her that she had killed Brian and she took her to see Brian's dead body.
Okay, now she's blaming Mary. Okay.
Remember, Norma no está, she's a little bit...
Mm-hmm. Está un poco...
intellectually...
Delayed. Slower.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The police took Norma to the Tin Lizzie, donde encontraron a Brian, and Norma showed investigators exactly where Brian's body was found.
That's where Mary had taken her to show her the body. Okay,
yes,
okay.
That's what she said.
That's what she said, yeah.
She laid on the ground and demonstrated in what position his body was when he was found. When Mary took her to see him. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. She told him that Mary said, quote, squeezed his neck and pushed up his lungs. That's how you kill him.
What the fuck?
Yes. According to Norma, that's what Mary told her.
That is really, really graphic for a little girl.
That's dark.
That's fucking dark.
She also told them that day Mary had a razor that she used it on Brian's body. She showed police exactly where Mary had hidden it. And sure enough, she told them that it was under a rock. And when they looked through the rock, ahí estaba el razor.
I mean, they didn't even... Oh, my God.
It was later they were able to determine that the M that was scratched onto his stomach was down. With that, it was a Gillette razor. Yeah.
Wow.
So up to that point, the police didn't know about the razor. They hadn't found it until she said it. Only someone who had been at the scene before his body was found would have known, which would have been the killer. Because not even the police, when his body was found, knew about the razor.
The razor, yeah.
Yeah. So after that, Norma was then taken to the police station to make like a formal statement. That night, police went to Mary's home to speak to her again, and they took her to the police station in the early morning hours of August 5th. She was told of what Norma said, what was in Norma's statement, and she said that Norma was a liar.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Because they're kids.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, grown-ups do that too.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I don't think that it was because they're kids. I think that it's just because
they're not going to admit to it.
They're not going to admit to it, yeah. She was trying to protect herself, obviously.
Now, Detective Dobson, who was the lead investigator now on the investigation, the lead investigator leading the investigation.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So Detective Dobson tried to get Mary to admit her guilt because Norma was saying all these things, but she never did. She was super defensive. I mean, as she would be. Y les dijo a los policías after being there, she said that she wanted to go home because she was being brainwashed by the police.
Oh.
And if maybe the office was being bugged and stuff. So, but she never uttered a single thing that would incriminate her. And she was allowed to go home after a couple of hours. Now, Detective Dobson was planning to arrest both girls on August 7th anyway, which was when Brian Howie's funeral was going to be, or it was. So he was in attendance, and he said that he saw Mary outside of the Howie's home waiting for Brian's coffin to be brought out. He said, and I quote, "She stood there laughing and rubbing her hands together.
Oh my God.
I thought, my God, I've got to bring her in. She'll do another one." So he believed...
He knew that she had done it. Wow.
Pero me la imagino así.
Ay, no, qué cosa tan horrible. Así bien pinche, ¿cómo se llama la pinche? ¿Cómo se llama la niña de la ring and shit? Annabelle, la pinche Annabelle, ándale. The fucking toy. Uy,
now, both girls were arrested. Mary then pinned the whole thing on Norma, of course. What do you expect? In her official statement,
of course she did.
She said that Norma is the one that got Brian to follow them to the Tin Lizzie with the promise of candy, with sweets. Que when they were on the way to the Tin Lizzie que llegaron, Brian empezó a llorar. Y que Norma le dijo que si le dolía la garganta, and then started to squeeze his throat.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then that she said that they were waiting for a lady that was going to bring the candy, but they needed to move closer to the blocks, to the cement blocks. So when they walked over there, Norma le dijo, according to Mary, Norma le dijo a Brian to lie down and he did. Oh, I don't know if he did, but he ended up on the floor. Mary said, quote, Norma says, "Put your neck up." And he did. Then she got a hold of his neck and said, "Put it down." She started to feel up and down his neck. She squeezed it hard. You could tell it was hard because her fingertips were going white. Brian was struggling, and I was pulling her shoulders, but she went mad. I was pulling her chin up, but she screamed at me. By this time, she had banged Brian's head on some wood or corner of wood, and Brian was lying senseless. His face was all white and bluey, and his eyes were open. His lips were purplish and had all like slabber on. It turned into something like fluff. And then she says, quote, "We went home, and Norma was acting kind of funny. She said, quote, 'This is the first, but it'll not be the last.'"
Oh, wow.
Norma went into the house and she got a pair of scissors and she put them down her pants. She says, "Go and get a pen." I said, "No, what for?" She says, "To write a note on his stomach." And I wouldn't get a pen. She had a Gillette razor blade. We went back to the blocks and Norma cut his hair. She tried to cut his leg, his ear with the blade. End quote.
I mean, if you think about it, what she described, it was like so... Like, not, how do you call it? So, like...
Vivid?
No, como que lo tenía tan,
¿Rehearsed?
No, not rehearsed, como que estaba en detail. O sea, todo lo que le estaba diciendo, como que yo no creo que lo haya visto, maybe she did it herself, but it sounded like she was saying everything like it was being done, you know?
Yes,
it
like
doesn't
it happened.
sound, like she did it. You know what I mean?
With her statement, which she's saying that it was Norma, that Norma led her there. So... in her statement, she is placing herself at the scene, which is how she would have seen the scissors, which she brought up initially.
Yeah. Mm-hmm,
right. So it didn't mean that she did it, but she was there when it happened because Norma brought her to his body, right?
That's what she said, yeah.
That's what she's, according to Mary.
Mary, uh-huh.
Now, Mary also admitted that it was them that broke into that nursery.
Oh, my God.
And it was them that trashed it and wrote the letters, the 4 notes that were found.
Mary said that, okay.
That it was them. So that was her formal statement, and she signed it, Mary Flora Bell, at 6:55 p.m.
Mind you, she's what, 11? Yeah, okay.
She's 11. Both girls were charged with the murder of Brian Howie on August 8th, and Mary said, "That's all right with me."
Wow.
And when Norma heard también esto y que esta Mary le andaba echando toda la culpa, she said, quote, I'll pay you back for this, le dijo a Mary. and that she was crying. Pero que Mary wasn't scared of Norma, you know?
No le vale madre.
After they were both, charged and arrested, Detective Dobson thought back about Martin Brown's case. El primer niño.
Okay.
And how maybe it needed to be revisited. After looking over the case file, he believed that Martin's death might have not been an accident after all. So Detective Dobson went to the Browns' home and notified them and his family, his parents, that there might be a possibility that Martin had been murdered.
By Mary.
Just murdered.
Oh, murdered. Oh, okay.
They were going to exhume his body and conduct a more thorough exam.
You imagine her mom knowing that Mary was standing outside, like, asking her questions and stuff? Si se da cuenta. Like, oh my God, I can just imagine.
Now, forensic evidence was found that linked both Mary and Norma to Martin's death.
Yeah?
Fibers from the girls' clothes were found on Martin's body.
What the fuck, dude?
And supposedly they hadn't seen him that day that he went missing.
Crazy.
They're little girls. There was also an instance where Mary stopped after Brian le había pasado eso a Brian, and Mary stopped by their house and told them after Brian's death and told them that she knew something that could put Norma away. She told them that she saw Norma choke Martin to death.
What?
And no one knew that Martin had been strangled up to that point.
Okay.
So she was
just babbling.
Word vomit. So ella misma was tying the noose around her neck without her knowing.
For real.
I mean, she's fucking 11.
She's 11, dude. A los 11 yo andaba jugando Barbies and roller skating. Like, there's no way that at 11 I was trying to plan a murder or remember how to get away. Yeah, there's no way. Bien dos soñadoras.
Yeah. Now, after both girls were arrested, their school turned in like the girls' notebooks that they had at school, and they were able to compare like the handwriting from the notes and that were found in the nursery to theirs, and they were similar. And it looked like both girls took turn writing like every other word or so to kind of like make it look kind of like distorted.
Oh, wow.
But masterminds.
So creative.
There was also a story in Mary's notebook where she wrote about Martin Brown being found, and she drew a picture of him with and it's a tablet, which was the bottle of pills next to him. And she also drew the worker that both kids grabbed from the outside to go look at Martin's body. So she also drew him. The fact that a bottle of pills were found next to his body was not released to the public, so nobody knew that.
Wow,
but she
crazy.
drew it. Mm-hmm. The only people that knew were the two boys, the worker, and the police.
Whoever found the body, basically. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So then they were also charged with Martin Brown's murder. Las dos. So the trial was set for December 5th of 1968, and it would last 9 days. There was a motion for anonymity from both the girls' counsel because they were minors. Mm-hmm. But the judge, I think his name is Judge Cusack, waived those rights. So the media was able to publish the girls' names and their pictures.
Wow. I'm pretty much sure that her mom is probably psyched. The fact that she finally got rid of her. I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but bitch, like, she's probably like, ya lo último, hasta que me pasó lo que yo quería, like, fuck.
Both of the girls' families were in attendance. Like, it says that Norma's family was there to be supportive and stuff
Maybe
like that.
Mary's like aunt. I doubt her mom gave a shit.
I didn't see anything about her aunt, but Betty was there, and they said that she would just like put on a show, like lloraba really loud, and that
a show. Basically.
Billy was just there, like quiet, like
he was probably like, "You're gonna put my ass back in jail." I gotta shut the fuck up.
Now, the girls blamed each other for the murders. It was a she said, of course. Norma told the court that it was Mary that told Brian to lie down. So remember how Mary said all that stuff? It was Mary telling the police that it was Mary. Mary told Brian to lie down and started to hurt him. And that she tried to push Mary off of him when he started to turn blue. And that Mary told her to finish the job because her hands were getting thick. Which, I mean, I guess just means tired.
Tired, maybe? Uh-huh.
But she says that she panicked and ran away. Now, Mary was asked if she thought that Norma was really capable of committing the murders. And if so, wasn't she scared that Norma would hurt her? And Mary answered to that. She said, quote, "She would not dare because I would turn around and punch her nose." So her answers were just given very straightforward, she was just very stoic, like,
I don't care.
Yeah, this is what happened. Now, to the court, that made Mary look like the strong one of the two, you know, like the leader. Like, if you're telling us that she did it, but if she were to hurt you, you'd fuck her up? Like, how, that doesn't make sense. No le tiene medio.
No sense. No le tiene miedo, yeah.
Yeah. So she didn't help her case, especially with all the evidence that was mounted on top of her. Now, both girls were psychologically evaluated before the trial, and the findings were turned over to the jury at the end, which was going to help them decide pretty much what was going to happen.
What was going to happen, yeah.
And it was then that Norma's test revealed that she was intellectually delayed. She showed emotions easily and also was easily manipulated. And for that reason, the court decided that Norma would not be tried as a willing and equal participant. Now, 4 psychiatrists examined Mary, and they concluded that, quote, although not suffering from a mental disorder, she suffered from psychopathic personality disorder, and that she lacked the feelings of a child her age, and that she never showed any remorse, like at all.
She didn't give a shit.
Yeah. On December 17th, 1968, Norma was acquitted of the charges.
What?
Yeah, because she was...
What the fuck?
Was acquitted of the charges, and Mary was found guilty of manslaughter and would be held at Her Majesty's pleasure, which just meant that she would be held indefinitely. And before that, she was shitting bricks. So when they said that she was found of manslaughter, she started to cry because she thought that they were going to hang her. Oh. Because they used to do that. But that hanging people, like, they like abolished that, so it wasn't a thing anymore. But she was found guilty of manslaughter. So
that's the only time she actually showed like emotion.
Yeah, she thought she was going to be hanged.
Yeah.
Norma went home with her family.
What the fuck? I can't believe it.
Yeah, Norma went home with her family, and the court didn't know what to do with Mary. They couldn't put her in prison, in a women's prison. She was fucking 11. They didn't have like a mental facility, you know, for that would be able to help her. She was fucking 11, and they didn't have any other facility for an 11-year-old killer. I mean,
yeah, that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, especially in the 1960s in the UK.
Right.
So it was agreed by everyone that she needed to be rehabilitated, not punished. All right. So you just couldn't fucking send her somewhere and lock her up for the rest of her life. Eventually, Mary was sent to Red Bank Special Unit, which was a boys' reform school. She began serving her sentence in February of 1969. And she was the only female at that reform school, and she was there with 22 boys. Now, throughout the years, I mean, a lot of shit went down at Red Bank. Like, they're saying that one of her, I don't know if it was like a teacher or a male worker there, like sexually abused her or something like that. And throughout the years, I mean, Betty would visit her and would use Mary to make money.
Oh. I mean, does that surprise you?
No. First of all, hold on. Let me just tell you what this bitch did. Betty, cuando iba a visitar a Mary, se ponía like lingerie type of...
Disgusting. Trash.
Clothing under her clothes. And then cuando la visitaba, she would tell Mary to put it on y le tomaba fotos. And then she would sell the pictures to the tabloids and the press.
Trash.
And if you're buying these pictures, you're fucking girls, first of all. This is a little-ass kid. She would also encourage Mary to write daily letters and poems about her feelings and her experience. And she would sell those too.
Wow. Fucking trash. Dude.
One poem, it's really sad when you think about it, said, please, quote, one poem said, quote, please, ma'am, put my tiny mind at ease. Tell the judge and jury on your knees. They would listen to your please. The guilty one is you, not me. I'm sorry it has to be this way. We'll both cry and you will go away. Tell them you are guilty, please. So then, ma'am, I'll be free. So Mary always blamed Betty for the way that she turned out. I mean,
which is probably she's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Which seems apparent in the poem. And her mental health and behavior would always take like a turn for the worst after Betty would visit her. Fucking take pictures and shit.
Bitch, taking pictures of her, like, I mean, my mental fucking state would fucking get fucked up too.
Yeah. So even the people at the facility would tell her to, you know, just don't allow her to come in and don't allow her to visit you anymore, you know, just take away that privilege. And she did. Eventually, Betty wasn't allowed to visit her anymore, but she was still at Red Bank. In 1973, when Mary was like 15 or 16, it's so crazy because she's so little.
She's a little girl, yeah.
She was transferred to a women's prison. And in 1978, she was again transferred to a less secure facility. So she was paroled and released in 1980. and at the age of 23.
Wow.
Having served almost 12 years. And a condition of her parole was that she had to have a job. So a job was provided for her. And do you want to take a guess on what that job was?
Hopefully not a sex worker. Or a nanny.
Working in a nursery, taking care of small children.
Fuck that. No. Are you kidding me right now?
Somebody caught on to it real quick and they're like, oh yeah, we can do that.
No.
So it was reassigned.
Yes, reassigned immediately.
Reassigned her to something else that didn't involve her direct contact with children.
Yes, I'm going to need you not to have direct contact with children. What the fuck? Van a salir todos los niños ahorcados a la verga? What the fuck? That's crazy.
So at some point, she ended up moving back in with Betty, her mom.
Oh, Lord. That's a bad news. Betty's a bad news.
Yeah, she's a bad news bear.
But yeah.
And she met a young man and fell in love with him. And she got pregnant and was expecting a baby. So after the people, wherever they were living, I'm not sure if they were still in Scottswood or not, but wherever they were living, after the people found out that she was living there, they took to the streets. They were protesting, shouting, quote, "Murder out, murder out." So Mary felt that she and her unborn baby were not safe. So she went to the court and was given a new identity along with her baby girl, who was born on May 25th of 1984, which was 16 years to the day of Martin Brown's murder. That's 16 years
fucking crazy.
On the day of.
It's crazy.
In 1998, the press found out where Mary and her 14-year-old daughter were living. Reporters swarmed their house and stuff like that, and they had to be taken to a safe house by undercover cops. So Mary's daughter, up to that point, did not know of what her mom had done when she was a young girl. So I can imagine how that conversation went. And they were both relocated after that again. Now, the anonymity for Mary's daughter was initially supposed to last up until the age of 18. For her. But in 2003, Mary went to a high court to have that changed to lifelong anonymity for both of them. And it was approved. In 2009, when Mary became a grandmother, now that lifelong anonymity got extended to her granddaughter también.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And look, she had a daughter and a granddaughter. And apparently she only had one daughter. I think from what the research said that she only had one daughter. Mm-hmm. And that was the case of... That's some...
And obviously way more stuff happened. Like she tried to escape one time and she did. And they caught her. It was before she was paroled in 1980. And I think también she got pregnant and had an abortion before this baby and stuff like that. But yeah.
I mean, can you imagine being in an all boys school? Like, I'm pretty sure she would get picked on and bothered a lot. And all of these kids that were already in this like academy thing that they called it,
reform school,
were already like
boys,
and bad, not bad, pero como
but they were saying that people like that she was just like people would just gravitate towards her. She was so smart. She was very charismatic. She had like an engaging personality. So they también decía that when all these years being in a reform school with boys to like a women's prison with real criminals, it was just like a big shock to her, So, I mean, this shit's fucking crazy, but she went out to live her life where there's two little boys that,
That's crazy. And that was the story of
Mary fucking Bell.
Mary
and God knows
Campanas.
Where she is right now, imagine.
Quién sabe dónde estará. She could be my neighbor.
I don't think she'd be.
I mean, no, but you know what I mean. She could be anywhere. Yeah. Like, and I mean, that's something. I wonder if she ever said she was sorry for what she did.
She worked with an author on a book that came out in the early 1990s. I tried to buy it, but during the holiday season, it wasn't going to get here in time. It was delayed shipping for everything. But I wanted to read it because she worked directly with the author, and the author wrote a book about her. And apparently, she never, at least from what the research says, she never said that she did it. But she never said that she was, that her verdict was unfair.
Well, I mean, that's what I don't understand. Like, I don't get it. If you did something, if you said yes, why don't you just give these people closure? Like, yeah, I did it.
Oh, they know.
Just stop. Stop saying, no, I didn't do it. What good does that make? But you're obviously in jail for something. They had evidence that you were there. And then you're like, no, I didn't do it. No, First of all, I just looked her up. She looks like the little girl from Annabelle. Or, I mean, from the fucking Ring.
No.
She looks creepy. With her little bangs?
Yeah. Have you seen The Ring?
Yes, I've seen The Ring. The girl has like the hair long and shit. But I'm just saying, she looks creepy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's her.
Yeah. Yeah, that's her. She reminds me of Lynette the Clown.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not the same, not the hair or anything. Because Lynette has curly hair. But something about her reminds me like she would be like on Barney or some shit.
For sure, Barney.
Yeah.
Yeah. She does look like she would wear like, I mean, Barney is a dinosaur of our imagination. Yeah. For sure, she would be on there. Yeah.
So I don't know.
That's fucking creepy. But thank you for bringing that story to us. We appreciate you. So thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate everybody's support.
Yes, I know we're sad. Am I sad holiday season's over?
No, I'm not sad.
I was tired this year.
You know what? I don't like 2022. I'm ready for 2023.
Oh, yeah.
I really
all day,
am.
every day.
All day, every day.
Yep.
New start. In the words of my daughter, new year, new me.
New year, same me, bitch. I'm too old to be changing.
For real. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate everybody's support. You know what? You know what?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Happy New Year. That's it. I hope all of your, New Year's resolution. New Year's resolutions come.
Do you have New Year's resolutions?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you?
No.
Oh, okay. But I do. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. And I hope you have a wonderful day or night, whatever.
No, somebody said, I have New Year's resolutions, but I'm not going to tell them to people, so I'm not held accountable.
No. I mean, the only thing I want you to know is I'm drinking
more water.
Yeah, more water. And my New Year's resolutions has nothing to do with me losing weight. I'm going to tell you.
Or going to the gym or working out.
No.
Yeah. Anyways.
All
right, guys. Thank you for listening.
Have a good night. Bye.